I think we are good to go. So welcome everybody to our grad certificate in writing, editing, and publishing. This is an information session, and I would like to greet Dr. Delia Falconer, who is the senior lecturer of writing and publishing course, as well as Dr. Andrew Peoples, who is also a lecturer in our writing and publishing course. Thank you once again for joining us today and sharing all the information about this course. And please, I leave it with you.
Well, hello, everyone. Thank you for coming along tonight. My name is Andrew Pipos. I'm a lecturer in the writing and publishing discipline at UTS, and I'm the postgraduate advisor within the discipline too. Delia Falconer, senior lecturer in writing and publishing, is also here with us. Before I get started, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which the university is situated, the land on which I live, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation. I pay my respects to elders past and present and emerging. And I acknowledge that the first storytellers on this land were Gadigal. The next slide, this session is recorded. We will record audio, screen, and the presentation. We will not be recording any video input or audio input from you. If you do have questions, please put them in the chat, and we will answer them later on in the webinar. So just to introduce some of the staff at UTS, you learn from published authors who have active publishing careers and who are experienced teachers. Delia Falconer is the author of 2 novels and 2 works of non-fiction. The Service of Clouds was her first novel. She's also written Sydney and a book of essays. Claire Corbett is a novelist as well. She's written two novels that are sort of dystopian fiction. Anthony McCris is another author on staff, and he's written 5 works, novels, short fiction, and a book of essays. Graham Ackhurst is another writer we have on staff, and Graham is a YA author, and I'm a novelist. We also have a student, a former student from UTS, Charles Malikon, who studied at UTS and took all the subjects in the graduate certificate, which is the degree that we're talking about this evening. Charles has worked on the UTS anthology, and she's worked for Penguin Random House, among other publishers, and Charles will tell us a little bit about her experience at UTS later on.
Pardon me, Andrew, sorry, I just went too far.
So the graduate certificate is really looking at honing triple threat skills, strong publishing, editorial, and writing skills. We're building on the subjects, the tradition that's been built up over 40 years of creative writing at UTS. We teach, if you want to be a writer, if you don't want to go into editing, you will still do an editing subject in the degree, and that will be helpful. It will inform the way that you revise your work, and rewriting is how you make something good. There will be a publishing workshop subject. This will introduce you to the publishing process, a complex process. It's important for authors to understand how marketing and publicity work, how a book is produced and sold. You also need to understand your career, not so that you can micromanage everything, but so you have a better grasp of what is happening with your book, what questions you need to ask your agent or publisher. And the publisher can be a bit opaque from the outside before you work in a publishing house or before you publish your first book. And some of the subjects in the graduate certificate address that knowledge gap. So in the graduate certificate, there is an old version of the graduate certificate that we're phasing out at the end of this year, and there'll be a new graduate certificate starting next year. Might move to the next.
Yeah.
Can we move to the next slide?
Yes, that is the next slide now. Should be up. There we go. looking at some of the opportunities that this course provides.
So you will have an opportunity to publish in the UTS Writers Anthology and gain sort of exposure as a writer. There will be a writers salon every month where student writers can meet and share their writing, hear from recent UTS graduates who have published a book. And these are great events to build community, to test out some of your recent work.
Yeah. So do you mind if I chip in here, Andrew, for a moment, just looking at these, some of the things that we offer. We've just been actually going through a reaccreditation process of the degree, which has involved, we always have strong industry links at UTS anyway, but it's involved speaking to major publishers and people in, in the media industry, and editors, and one of the things that they've observed is that the industry is really changing. So a lot of the traditional roles that used to be very strictly demarcated are really moving very, very rapidly, and so students with short degrees and with sort of multiple skills and abilities are very much in demand from their point of view. And they've also identified sustainability and equity, cultural intelligence, and diversifying the industry, and the challenges of artificial intelligence as being three of the most the three things that are the key drivers in their industry at the moment. And so what our course is aiming to do is to, and they also like students who are good readers and good writers. So what we're offering with our courses, and always have, but are honing more and more at the moment in the process of what is a usual sort of process in the university of reaccreditation, is to sharpen the job readiness and the technological focus of our graduate certificate degree. Sorry, Andrew, just because I was running that process, I thought I'd just chip in because it's all very fresh in my head.
No, thanks, Delia.
So we'll move on to the next slide.
So as I mentioned at the start, we have Charles with us. Charles has worked on the UTS anthology. She has worked in publishing. And I'd just like to ask Charles, can you tell us a little bit about your experience at UTS?
Oh.
Hello.
Hi, Charles, we can hear you.
Oh, great. That's good. Sorry, I'm actually at Writing New South Wales at the moment, and it might be a bit noisy in the background. Yeah, sorry, Andrew, what did you ask?
Oh, I just wanted to ask if you could tell us a little bit about your experience at UTS.
Yeah, I did the master's program over a 3-year period, which involved a lot of different subjects. And as Andrew and Dilly both mentioned, I think the broadness of that range was really incredibly helpful and useful, even though maybe going into it, I didn't necessarily understand why I may have needed to do certain subjects. They absolutely broadened my knowledge and understanding of the industry, which is how I find myself working back in the book industry today. So invaluable, really. I think the secret is to, if you're going to turn up and get involved, then go wholeheartedly and make the most of it, because that way you'll get the most out of the course.
So Charles, in your degree, you took all of the graduate certificate subjects, the degree that we're talking about tonight, the editing subject, publishing and marketing, and narrative and creative nonfiction. Were those subjects helpful to you in terms of the work that you're doing now in publishing?
Yeah, critical. I mean, of all the subjects that I did, I would suggest that they were the most and continue to be the most important, actually. A great deal. Well, I'm working in a nonfiction division, so naturally I kind of really lean into that aspect. And as Delia and you, who both taught me that subject, regularly said, you know, it's a really fast-growing and important part of our writing landscape here in Australia, and a really great way to kind of get a foothold into the industry, both from a writing perspective and also just a professional perspective. And I just think really it broadens your understanding of writing in general and editing, so invaluable on that front. And naturally, working in publishing, obviously I'm using a lot of the skills that I developed and learned in that publishing degree.
And Charlotte was also, I think, you know, some of the extracurriculars.
Sorry, all my
Can
friends
you hear me?
are rocking up here.
Charlotte was also, I think, oh, that's not sounding good. Are you there, Charlotte?
I can.
Great. I think some of the extracurricular things you did as well were sort of part of your experience as well. And I think you started working as a fiction reader for Overland magazine with Claire Corbett, who is a fiction editor, and you know, of course, also worked as one of the editors of our anthology. Could you just talk a little bit about that aspect of UTS, the things that don't sort of appear on paper, I suppose, that people might be interested in?
Yeah, look, absolutely. I mean, that's first and foremost why, of all the writing options and courses out there, I chose UTS. Delia has been with the course for a very long time and was there when I was looking around, as was Deborah Adelaide and Claire Corbett, as mentioned. Andrew came along, I think, around about the time I started. And for me, that was critical, absolutely essential. There are lots of places. I'm here tonight at Writing New South Wales doing a poetry course, but none as holistic and none as sort of in-depth and industry focused as what the UTS course offers. And for me, coming back into this career in industry after a long hiatus, I guess one of the most important things was reconnecting with the industry, reconnecting with the network and people who are actually practicing their craft on a daily basis and could really, really give honest, legitimate feedback and insight into the process and handhold that process for us along the way. So the opportunities too, as you said, Delia, in terms of engaging, and I guess that's what I mentioned before about, you know, really throwing yourself wholeheartedly into it. There are so many opportunities, and if you really want to make the most of them, they're there. So, you know, I do continue to do work with Overland. From the anthology work that I did, I landed my first freelance roles as an editor, and now that's sort of progressed into a full-time job. So I wouldn't be where I am without the UTS course, frankly.
You mentioned your involvement in the UTS anthology. That is an anthology of student work that's been going for 40 plus years. And it's a big part of the UTS creative writing tradition. It's reviewed in major newspapers each year. And you were on the editorial committee for the anthology. Could you just tell us what that experience was like? We do encourage postgraduate students, graduate certificate students to get involved in the anthology. Yeah,
I think it's critical. If you can make the time for it, and it does come with a caveat, the suggestion, because it is quite a lot of time, personal time, that you will have to contribute voluntarily. But it's so worth it. I mean, it's a genuine publication. It's a real book that you're creating. You're working with other writers, and you will be doing that in your classes. There's a lot of workshopping, which again, is so practical, this course, but working on and producing this anthology is the most sort of real approach you get to that, because you start from the beginning in terms of reading through and assessing work, critically examining work, having rationale, having to work with other people, which is a really key part of the industry. You know, there's a lot of talk about solo writing, but Andrew and Delia will tell you that there's also a lot of work that you do with your editors and your publishers, and so it's really important to be able to know how to do that well and professionally. And all of those skills, I think, you develop in pulling the anthology together. So yeah, you run it alongside your course and your classwork. So it is, as I said, it is a big sort of added amount of time to your workload. But if you can find a way to make that happen, even reduce the coursework that you're starting down to one class. Everyone I know basically that I worked on the anthology with has gone on to carve out a professional career or a part-time career in writing and editing. So if that's your goal, then I'd recommend it.
And Charles, you were a glutton for punishment because you ended up helping with the being part of the 40-year celebration anthology as well, which was going back through the all the previous anthologies and selecting a best of which, if anyone's interested, if you look online, there's a history in the pages for this department about the anthology and about that process. So yeah, you're a sort of expert on the UTS anthology now.
So it was an amazing experience reading back through all of that time, and we've had I was somewhat aware but not fully aware until I really reread from, you know, the very first edition. I think, was it 81, Delia, from memory?
Yeah, I think so.
82, with Paddy Miller's Pink Cakes leading out, and the names that have appeared in that anthology are, you know, that among the stellar writers in our literary landscape, and it was such a privilege to be able to read those early works of theirs and feel a part of, you know, that heritage and community, and realise that, you know, we're kind of a long way down the line and we're keeping the dream alive. So that's good.
And look, I don't know if any of our viewers are watching the chat function as well, the Q&A function, sorry. But in case you're not, I'm just going to remind you that if you have any questions for Charles while she's available, and Charles does have to run away soon, please, this is your chance to put them into the Q&A section, and Charles can answer. And there's nothing like having, you know, I think with any course that you're thinking about taking, it's, you know, the experience of graduates, and, you know, our graduates are wonderful at UTS that are, you know, the best way, you know, even more than what we can tell you about the course to get a feel for it.
If there are questions there, would you mind reading them out? I'm actually on a phone, so I don't have access to that panel.
Yeah, no, there's nothing at present.
Okay,
sure.
That's great.
Sorry, there is one from Anna Freeland. She's actually asking, were you working full or part-time in conjunction with the study? And if so, how manageable was balancing workloads for you?
I had a unique experience along with my particular cohort in that we lived through COVID. I had one live class, or 1 week of live classes, face-to-face classes, before the world went into lockdown, and it was a rapid transition to Zoom. I was working part-time, but the work became very sporadic, and rather than fall in a heap, I thought, well, I'll throw myself full-time into this. And so I was given a unique opportunity, one that I don't think many of us would get today. Of my friends that were working, the way they managed it was just to reduce the courses that they were signed up to. So I think 1 at the most 2 subjects while you're working is realistic. I think 1 is probably ideal, because that way you can really absolutely get the most out of it. You're only sort of skimping on yourself if you try and do too many courses, subjects at once, I think, because then you don't have the time for the readings and to dwell in the works that you've been set, and to really think through those conversations that you might want to have. So, and they're just so rich. So the more time you can give to doing it properly and in depth, I think the better for you.
Great, Charlotte. Thank you so much for that.
And we are back to face-to-face subjects for this degree.
Yeah, I've heard. I know, that's what I mean. It was such a weird, and Delia is so fun. So I literally very first week I had face-to-face. Very last week I had face-to-face with Delia's industry and practice. Or was it? No, it was writing project. And at the time, I don't know if you've had a chance to mention this, but the university, in conjunction with Cal, sponsors a writing position through the university. And we had Nadi Simpson when I was there in my last year, and always these writers come and give us some amazing talks about their own work and the industry. I'm actually doing poetry with Nadi here tonight. So the connections continue long after the course. I think you make these great connections and relationships, and they carry on, which is really important too.
I'm just looking, Charles, again, just to see if there are any. I don't think there. I can see there are a few questions building up about the degree generally, which we will answer, but I can't see any more specific questions for you, Charles.
Great.
So,
unless there's anything else you want me to discuss, then maybe I'll leave you to it.
I think thanks for your time, Charles. Really appreciate it when you have another course on tonight. It's lovely to hear from you again, hear your voice.
Yeah. Well, good luck anyone that signs up. You're in great hands. I know you'll have an amazing time if you do it. So good to see you all, and I shall say goodbye.
Thanks, Charles.
See you later. Bye.
So I'm just moving the slide. Here we go. So we've got some specific questions, Andrew. I'm not sure if you're looking at the Q&A as well, but I think perhaps we should just go through the structure and then answer those questions.
Okay, so there is an old, what we might call an old iteration of the graduate certificate there will be one more intake into that degree in spring 23, and then the new graduate certificate will start from autumn 2024. So in the old degree, there are two core subjects: professional editing and book publishing and marketing, and you take one elective, either creative nonfiction or narrative writing. So creative nonfiction and narrative writing are creative writing subjects. Professional editing is focused more on editing techniques, and book publishing and marketing takes you into all the various aspects of producing a book, marketing a book, publicity, how a book is acquired and sold.
Okay, so I'll just move on again. So here we go. Here's the new.
And here is the new degree that you will be studying from autumn 2024. So instead of 3 subjects, there are 4 subjects. And they're refined versions of the subjects in the previous graduate certificate. So published professional editing practice is again about, not to go into fine detail, but it's about the practice of editing, copy editing, and various types of editing, that taking a manuscript from an early draft right through to a finished draft. Then there's publishing workshop, which is about the publishing industry, all the different roles within a publishing house, all the things that need to be attended to in order for a book to be brought into the world. There's creative nonfiction workshop, and there's narrative and creative practices. There are 2 creative writing subjects and 2 industry subjects, so to speak. So the graduate certificate is suitable both for writers and for people who want to explore a career in publishing. So some of the graduates have gone on, graduate certificate alumni have gone on to work at Allen and Unwin and Penguin Random House, Simon and Schuster. The new graduate certificate focuses a little more on writing skills. So Delia, would you talk to that new suite of subjects?
Yes, so again, having sort of worked with focus groups out of industry, and that includes the Australian Publishers Association and the Small Press Network, as well as major publishers, we really have heard the message loud and clear that they are really looking for great all-rounders. They particularly value our graduates because UTS gives our graduates a deep understanding of creativity and great skills in reading and understanding text from within. And they say that is the hardest thing to teach. They can teach some other skills on the job, but people coming with those as we're putting it in this degree, the kind of triple threat of understanding creativity and writing as part of the process is very important. UTS is also, across all its subjects, leading the way with what is called the Indigenous Graduate Attribute. So publishers are also, it's a university-wide initiative, but publishers have been telling us that they really value graduates with cultural intelligence. The industry is really focused on opening itself up to and creating opportunities for diverse voices and for really thinking deeply about what it means to publish within an Australian context. And so in most of our courses, there is now an emphasis on that additional aspect of cultural intelligence, of understanding Indigenous copyright issues and understanding the very specific cultural contexts of publishing and writing in Australia, which is a very exciting new addition to this degree. And there has been a little bit more of a focus on collaborative skills, which is another thing that we're hearing very clearly from industry that they are very interested in. And so in the new publishing workshop subject, the students will be working together in simulating the creation of a particular publishing outcome, probably a book, but simulating those sort of processes and working together. So, and the creative and the non-fiction class again is geared towards thinking about the not only have there been a blurring of genres, a blurring of roles within publishing, but there's also been a blurring of genres. And there's a lot of really exciting movement across fiction and non-fiction, and this class looks at the uses of the real and the idea of writing from using fact-based material and so that's an exciting extra element in that particular class as well. Have I left anything out, Andrew, do you think?
One of the new elements of the narrative subject called Narrative and Creative Practices in the new degree, one of the things we've introduced is a focus on creative practice. And creative practice, meaning everything from finding time to write, your practice when it comes to revision, keeping a notebook, and so on. So we teach creative practice as well as narrative strategies in that subject. Techniques like around point of view, characterization, structure, narrative time, and so on. So we've packed quite a lot into these new subjects. It's an exciting new degree.
So I'm wondering if it's best to got a few sort of specific questions coming along as well. Perhaps before we get to those, let's just have a look at the some of the potential students who might be interested in this subject, and then we'll look at some of the potential careers. So Andrew, do you want to speak to this slide, or would you like me to?
Yes. So these courses are tailored to people who are interested in a change of careers, in working in editing and publishing. It's tailored towards people who want to take their writing more seriously, who have a book project underway, or they're keen to learn a little bit more about their writing process, to perhaps exploring other genres. Late life learners, entrepreneurs with a creative focus. These are the people who have studied the graduate certificate successfully, and the degree is geared towards these kind of students.
Just speaking from the point of view of being a lecturer in this course, we tend to attract a really, really interesting bunch of people. It's one of the pleasures, I think, of teaching here, and I think for students studying here, is that we do have that, really exciting mix of people from all sort of stages of life in the course. And so, Andrew, would you like to speak to this one as well?
Okay, so you'll be learning, engaging in diverse learning activities, learning about current creative editing and publishing practices. You'll be hearing from professionals in the industry, publishers and agents. You'll be gaining practical experience in editing other student work. Workshops will be a big part of your practice, particularly in the narrative and creative nonfiction workshop. In case you don't know how workshops function, it's an activity in which classmates read your writing and give feedback. And in my experience, workshops are like a fundamental part of creative writing classes. They're a way for you to understand the experience of reading your writing. The feedback that you receive will be related to what is good about the piece of writing, what could be developed. Workshops are a way for writers to clarify their process. It's often, in my experience, the context in which certain problems in a draft story are solved for the readers in the workshop, for the people giving that feedback. You also benefit. You learn about editing, which is a focus of the graduate certificate, and self-editing, and you learn how to work as a group to support someone else's idea. As a reader in workshops, you also learn about your own perceptions, your own practice, and how you might use similar storytelling devices or resolve similar problems in your own work. And also, writing exercises are a big part of the two creative writing subjects in the graduate certificates. The exercises that you do will train you in certain techniques. They're not gratuitous exercises. They're designed to help you get a better handle on craft, on plot and characterization and point of view, on beginning a story and ending a story, and so on.
Also, it's increasingly a business, editing and publishing, or even presenting one's own writing, of being able to communicate about, to express and communicate whether it's critical feedback or seeing the golden possibility of a piece of work while working with another writer. That's the workshopping of creative writing also produces those skills that the industry really likes among our graduates, which is that ability to really deeply connect with the creativity and techniques of work and communicate that to both to fellow editors and to writers that people might be working with. So they have a multiple number of uses, the workshops, I think. Okay, so I'm going to move along to the next slide.
Billy, would you like to speak to this particular slide?
All right, so the Pardon me, I am just moving a few things aside so that I can see clearly. So if you would like to apply for either the current degree or the next degree, most of the requirements are similar. So you need to have completed a UTS recognised bachelor's degree or an equivalent or higher qualification that demonstrates the potential to pursue graduate studies. If you haven't completed a bachelor's, master's, graduate diploma or graduate certificate qualification, you've got a slightly different pathway involved in applying for one or the other. For the current degree, we ask for a personal statement of around 500 words explaining why you wish to study with us, your CV, where we're really looking for particularly, if you have some other relevant experience, like paid or voluntary work, or special interests that could be relevant to the course. And we have the English proficiency requirement as well. Now, if you're applying for the 2023 certificate in writing, editing and publishing, we've just clarified those requirements slightly more. So we would like you to have professional or creative experience in a relevant field. And if you look online, you'll see some of those relevant fields clarified, and they'll be clarified in the handbook. So we'll be looking for, again, for a CV that includes your employment and educational history, roles and responsibilities. Obviously, the more you point out how they relate to the degree, the better it is, easier it is for us to assess. And we're asking for a writing portfolio of no more than 3,000 words or equivalent. That's optional, but obviously it's really, it's really likely to increase your chances. And any evidence of completed non-award, which means non-university courses in writing, editing or publishing, as part of your post-secondary school education, and a personal statement outlining how your skills and experience align with the course and your awareness of opportunities in the emerging media industries. So, Andrew, do you want to speak to this one? So this is for the intake for the coming spring semester 2023.
So those fees on that slide are for students who are commencing in spring 2023. If you decide to start in autumn 2024, the fees from that period will be determined by the federal government in December. We don't know that at the moment.
And if you're looking for recognition of prior learning for previous studies, that's evaluated on a case-by-case status. So we can't answer that question particularly well here in this particular forum. So there's a scannable QR code here if you're interested in more information, but you have us live at the moment as well to answer your questions. So I thought perhaps we could just look at some of those questions that are coming through on the Q&A now, and I'll read them out for the benefit of people like Shah, perhaps who are on their phones or don't have access to them. So the first question is from Ben, who asks, does this course include screenwriting subjects? And no, it doesn't at present. However, it has been possible for students over the last year or so to take the MAP, which is the Media Arts and Production course as an optional course, and that is their just trying to remember the name of it. Is it Andrew? Do you remember the name of the? But it's their sort of introduction to screenwriting course that comes, and that is taught by Media Arts and Production, and you can apply to take that unit. But we don't teach we don't teach screenwriting at present as part of the suite of degrees, the suite of subjects. We have another question. Andrew, you might want to go answering this one. If I'm not particularly good at creative writing, but would like to go into an editing or publishing career, will this degree still be suitable?
Well, this is the degree for you then, because of that focus on editing and publishing. So half of the graduate certificate is devoted to improving your skills in editing and publishing, and then there are subjects on creative writing. And look, taking a creative writing subject, even if you want to work as an editor or as a publisher, taking these subjects and deepening your learning of narrative is only going to help you, I think, as an editor and as a publisher.
And again, just, having recently consulted with industry, it was really lovely to hear from them, as I've said before, that what they did like about our graduates and value about them was that deep knowledge of creativity and that experience in having workshopped and looked at other people's writing, having to communicate with other people about their writing, and to be able to take a piece of writing apart. They said that is there's a lot of entry level, post entry level skills that they can teach on the job, but that was the hardest thing to teach, and the thing that they really, one of the things, apart from our long industry record, and obviously excellent teaching of writing and of editing and publishing, that they really valued was the in-depth understanding of writing and reading that UTS graduates brought into the workplace.
Students who want to become editors often shine in workshops.
It's also my experience that often, one of the things that happens in the degree is that, students come in with, they like the variety, and they come in with a very distinct idea that they're going to write fiction or that they are going to be an editor, and then they, are responsible for teaching the creative non-fiction subjects, and I'm always delighted when suddenly, I've created a convert to writing and loving non-fiction. It was very lovely to hear Charles say tonight that she's working in the non-fiction division of the publishing house where she's employed, because that's one of the things about the variety of the degree, is that sometimes people come in with a very distinct idea of what they're going to do, and they discover something new. The next question is this graduate certificate offered in semester 2, I think? If so, when does it start? Also, is the course that is being is it the course that is being discontinued, or will it be units from the new course being offered in 2024? So I guess we'll start with the simplest question, which is when it starts. Andrew, do you remember what date?
It's the first week of August is the first week of the spring session. That's orientation, and then your first classes will be sometime in the week from the Monday, the 7th of August to 12th of August. So if you do commence in spring 2023, you will be taking subjects from the old graduate certificate, and that means that you will be taking at least one subject from the new suite of subjects that start in 2024.
And it's a 13-week semester with a 1-week mid-semester break in the middle. So usually the semester finishes around about the 19th of October is the date that I have in my head. It's usually about that 3rd week of October that it finishes. Can you do 1 unit of same question, I think. Can you do 1 unit of the current course in 2023 and then continue it next year?
Yes, you can.
Yeah. Is this course the same or related to the Masters in Creative Writing? So it used to be the case that you could, that this was what's called a stackable degree in university language. So that is that you would start with the creative, with the graduate certificate, and then you would build on a diploma and build on extra subjects for a master's. That is an exciting space that's being reconceptualised at UTS across the Faculty of Arts and Social Sciences at the moment. So at the moment, the graduate certificate now will stand alone, and that is both the old graduate certificate and the new graduate certificate. But what is being formulated at the moment for 2025 is a master's degree by research, which will involve a year of coursework subjects, and this is all very new, so I can't speak to it in much detail. And then two thesis type subjects at the end, which could be a longer creative work, or could be an investigation into a certain element, a research investigation into a certain element of publishing or editing. So it's quite exciting, but it's the master's program is currently suspended until the faculty sort of has fully designed this new degree.
So the next question is from Jenny. Is it all face-to-face, or are there online classes? The graduate certificate will be face-to-face.
Also, is the current course made up of 3 units, not 4? Yes. Yes, because there's a difference in the credit point weighting of the subjects. So the current course is made up of 3 8 credit point subjects. The new course will be made up of 4 6 credit point subjects. Where can I find the timetable of dates for the entire course? That is dates of the semesters and holidays and the date of completion if you do the course in full. There is you could just go online and look up the university calendar, the UTS Faculty of Arts and Social Sciences calendar, and that gives you the first day of classes and the last day of classes.
I just posted that in the academic year dates.
Yes.
That's for 2023. That's that you can find that online. And as for how long it will take you to complete, that depends on how many subjects you take per session.
And the 2023 handbook will be available very soon, but it's not, if you're thinking about 2023, it's not available yet. I just looked at the final copy today for that handbook. And it's going up soon, but it's not out yet. So no open questions. No more. If anyone has any last minute questions, this is your last chance to.
Thank you so much, Delia. Yeah, please, we encourage every one of our attendees to share their questions through the Q&A section down at the bottom of the screen, and we will go through them in a little bit. While we wait for some new questions to go or to be shared in the Q&A section, I would like to stress few points, and this is, even though the course is offered face-to-face, at UTS, we value the flexibility, and we provide different kind of class times that suits different personal and professional commitments. So I have shared in the chat box different links for you to go and identify what are the timetables available, and make sure that the classes that you are selecting are suitable for your personal and professional commitments. That's one thing. For those who are interested in applying for a spring 2023 intake, as Andrew has mentioned, the first classes, or the first on-campus experience will be the first week of August, sorry, the 7th or 8th of August. However, the application day closes on the 30th of June. So if you are keen in applying for this course, make sure you do it before this day, and secure your spot also in the classes that are available. We have already kind of mentioned during this presentation, our kind of recommendation for you to enroll in this intake will be around book publishing and marketing and the creative nonfiction that will allow you to have a smoother transition in 2024 when the new course structure and classes are taking place. And also, if you have any inquiries about the fees or the costing, I'll share right now on the chat the links that you can go ahead and explore based on your profile, if you are domestic or if you are international. And make sure, if you are interested in the grad certificate in writing, editing, and publishing, make sure you scan the QR code, leave your details, and as soon as we have the application dates, we will get back in touch with you to encourage for you to go ahead with your application.
Oh, and Catalina, thanks very much for mentioning class times. Yes, we realise that many people do, do work. And so most of our classes, I think all our classes, in fact, usually run at about 6 at night on different days. But they may, depending on who's taking classes and which, what is in the particular subject, you may find that some of the lectures are available in recorded form as well. So there might be a little bit of a mix of scaffolding of face-to-face classes and recorded lectures, depending on who is teaching. But the face-to-face elements are always about 6 at night.
Perfect. I don't think we have received any other questions. So I just want to thank you all for joining us this evening. Thank you, Dr. Delia and Dr. Andrew, for sharing all the knowledge around the course and the news that you have shared with us today around the new course and potentially the new master that we are going to be launching very soon. If anyone that is attending the webinar has any inquiries and want to get in touch with the academic body, please make sure you send all your questions to fast.marketing@uts.edu.au. And if you are international, please send your inquiry to fast.international@uts.edu.au, and we will be happy to direct all your inquiries to the academic body and ensure you receive the information that you are looking for.
Great. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, everyone.
And we can't see you, but it's great. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. See you next time, guys. And thank you.